This is the Zekate House, and the older folks that I spoke to own it, and I shook hands with each of them and learned to say again Merdita, which is good afternoon or good day, and I leave tomorrow and probably will never have a chance to say it again. It's interesting how this is an allusion to the castle's arched vaulting. Some of the detail of the stone floor. Here the ceiling is probably about 6 feet. Here an archway, and you wonder why this design was useful. I don't know what would have been used in there. And here's stone benches on which would lay those long cushions that we saw yesterday. And here perhaps might have been something for the preparation of food. But I'm sure I'm not the first person to have sat in this windowsill and looked out at the mountains and the city below. Imagine the thoughts of the people who sat where I am. If it was the owner, perhaps something important that he had done or had yet to do, or danger that existed for him. That he must resolve, a young girl, a daughter, thinking of her first love somewhere down there, wondering if he's thinking of her. In the middle of the Zekate House, more on the landing, I'll go up to the next level. Here notice, for some reason, how water's designed to spill out and away. And here what might have been a foyer, for lack of a better term, for side rooms. These may have been for sleeping, I have no clue. And notice here how thin the floors are, just boards. Now I suspect in the old days everything was covered with rugs. Here are the squat toilets. And they probably either went to something outside the house or to something on the side or under the house. And this room adjacent to it might have had something different here. Notice that there are 2 windows here and another big one here that allow for good. Seems like many spaces, but without any clue as to how they would be used. Could they, like the Latino, have had extended families living in their home and anticipated that? Here, much more woodwork. Perhaps this is the way these alcoves that we see oftentimes, in fact, were actually filled or covered, if you will, with wood doors. And there's shutters and curtains. And here are the rugs, of course. And various icons and so forth, maybe books if there's such a thing in their day, up here. And would this have been a sleeping quarters, perhaps for the kids? And I'm guessing that this is another toilet area. Keep my head down this time if I can. That may have allowed water from a shower to exit the building. I don't see any slit toilet here. So I don't know how this would have functioned as a toilet level. Another large room. Some detail over the doorways. I can only imagine that these were bedrooms. Whether folks slept on those Or not, I don't know. And up there probably is another sleeping area behind these wood panels. Similar room. And yet we're unable to tell what's behind here, except that my guess is that these were armoires. Okay, so we open up the door, and there would be whatever, either your clothes. Maybe there was a stairway or a ladder that went up there that provided additional sleeping or storage. Here another large room again. This one not finished off very well. Maybe this was just for raw storage. Their access to the underside of the roof. A little bit idea of how it was built with logs. Now at the hostel Albania in Tirana, Klaus, the owner, had referred to a little room like this out in the patio as the Oriental room. I don't know if this had any special significance like that. It's over the stairwell. And you can see it's a considerable amount of woodwork or whatever. And here the ceiling, having somewhat that look we saw in the Sultan's palace, and some pretty simple woodwork here. Presumably all this was done when there was lighting, electricity. So here are the remains of some fresco decoration. So it must have been very pretty. This is important because it gives us an idea of how it really looked in these rooms. Much more beautiful than the starkness impression that we get by looking at the others. And I've not seen anything like this. Now presumably this is the window that points to Mecca, if I'm interpreting this artifact correctly. It looks to me more like a place where you'd put a heater. And I may be right on both counts, but I'm certainly right on the last one because it does have a flue. There at an ornate little table. These little niches, what would they have held? Now just imagine what the colors might have been like. This decoration around this device is very heavily reliefed, if that's the right word. But imagine if these colors were vibrant rather than the dull of time. And again, looking at the woodwork, it was painted. You can see just faint allusions to it. I'll pan across most of this so we can get an idea of what it looks like overall. And then I'm going to focus on the detail, because there is a considerable amount of that up there. So let's go up and look. There, it's in focus. Remember, they could use flowers, plants, and designs. And thus we've seen now how those little panels can be used rather than just a straight painting them a solid color. Here there's at least the detail of flowers setting a pattern. And now we'll look a little bit more at the larger borders of this ceiling unit. Again, imagine the vibrant colors and what it would have been like. I'm going to just sweep around here in the hopes that we can get some sense of how it looked. And was the glass painted? It appears to be, since it's weathering. Could the panels be removed to provide air? Probably, but it might not have been necessary because there are windows all about. And there that upper portion again for whatever it was used for. But notice greater detail in the woodwork. I don't know if the camera can pick this up very well. Appears to be bunches of grapes. And I'm guessing that all of this was painted also, because it appears to be now. So again, it might have been very vibrant and decorative, whereas now it's very muted. You would think this was definitely the master's suite. Perhaps others could use it without disturbing the occupants. A lovely place this would have been to just sit and laze about. What spectacular views from this balcony. Get an idea of the roof design. Pretty straightforward. Notice that here the beams are, at least there's an attempt to make them somewhat square, as opposed to the log that we know is up above in the ceiling. So here's the entranceway up here like this. There's the old gentleman going inside now. This was the entrance to it. It's been restored. I imagine to be invited to this estate, you had to be important in your own right, although not perhaps quite as important.